Hey, yeah. So last night we were talking a little bit about getting started on Western swing. And we talked about shell voicings from the root 7 third on that E-shaped shell, and it's root third and 7, flat 7s both in these cases, on the A voice shell. And then how to manipulate those. But what I didn't get a chance to talk about was like how important triads can be to this style. So just running over some triad stuff really basically. I know in the uke that we've covered the top 3 strings, which we can just transfer to the shape. So the shapes we have learnt, root inversion, first inversion, second inversion, root inversion, right? All of those directly transfer. Obviously, you've just got to name them after where the root is placed on this instrument compared to where the root is placed. You can think of them all starting here on the 5th fret, right? Because the ukulele is the 5th fret here. But basic triads on the guitar. So I think a really good place to start is on our DGB strings. And you said you're already familiar with E blues, so I thought a nice thing would be to learn your triads, your 3 triad shapes, and how to put them on your 1, 4, and 5 chord. And then how to make a little bit of music with it, and then how you might push out from there into starting to make a little bit of melody with it, rather than just harmony. So first off is the shapes. Root inversion. It's the DGB string of an open E chord. Right? Now remember, we always want to be prepared to make this elsewhere on the neck, so we want to make sure we're thinking of it like a shape like this, not, don't get confused by the open string. Right, in root inversion, 1, 3, 5. Next up, if we go 1, 2, 3, 4 frets higher than the root shape, we get first inversion. 3, 5, 1. 1, 3, 5. 3, 5, 1. That's frets 6, 4, and 5. Then if we go up another 3 frets, 1, 2, 3 to fret 9, we get 9, 9, 9, second inversion. And then if we go up 5 frets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're back here at root inversion. So the first thing to learn and practice is just being able to do that. Can I go E, can I go E, E second, E root, and back down again, E second, E first, E root. Now that's the bulk of the learning done, because we're only going to use those 3 shapes. Remember that this shape is just this shape up an octave. So there's only 3 shapes. Then all we're going to do is learn how to make that sequence work across all of our 1, 4, and 5 chords. So that's that 1 chord, E, first inversion, second inversion, root inversion, second inversion, first inversion, root inversion. Now if we start the same shapes from A, the closest A to here is A second inversion. So it's the same shape as E second inversion, right? But we're just down here on A. The root note on second inversion is in the middle, 5, 1, 3. That note there, G sharp A is an A. Okay, so we have this. Then we go up 5 frets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's our root shape, 1, 3, 5 for A. And then we go up 4 frets, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's our first inversion shape, 3, 5, 1. And then we're back 3 frets, 1, 2, 3 for our second inversion shape. Right, so it's the same numbers. Root up to first inversion is 4 frets, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if we're on the root shape here of A, and we go up 4 frets, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's where the first inversion goes. So they're all linked. You want to memorize the gaps between them, as well as their names, as well as the numbers. I know it's a lot of memorization, but it all pays off in the end, trust me. Okay, finally, we need to do a 5 chord, we need B. Now, usually what we do is something like this. Root inversion for E, second inversion for A, and then we actually go backwards for the 5 chord. Now, the problem with that is, notice here, one of these notes is 11. So we actually can't do that at the open position, so that's kind of annoying. In the open position, we have to go up for 5. So 5 here is B, as you would know, like a B bar chord, right? Now, that's slightly annoying. One of the things that Western swing is really going to focus on is good voice leading. It uses a very traditional sense of connections with chords, connections between chords, voicings in chords. So what we want to do there is what we call parsimonious voice leading, which means moving things as little as possible to change between chords. So if you look at this E major triad, and I go to A major, one of the notes didn't move, the other note moved by 1 fret, the other one moved by 2 frets. That's pretty close, right? So that's good voice leading, or that's parsimonious voice leading. Voice leading like that, voice leading that's close, tends to sound lovely, woven, connected. It tends to make the pressure between the notes that are changing greater, so we find it more noticeable, right? Tends to sound more interesting. It's not the only option, and obviously everything is a tonal choice. So if we can get the 5 chord here, that voice leading is a little nicer than, feel that jump, as opposed to, right? So that's a bit of a shame in our open position that we can't get that, but it opens the door to some other things. So like what we'll do is practice 1, that's a root inversion, 4, A, that's a second inversion, and 5, that's a second inversion. Now we're just going to use that one for now. We could cheat, right? Like I know you know this B7 chord, so we could just do the middle 3 out of that, which is quite lovely as a way of resolving. So the patterns to practice: 1, 4, and 5. And then we'll go 1, 4. Now we can either go up for 5 or down. I'm going to go back down. 5. Let's listen to that one again. 1, 4, 5. Then we get 1, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5, 1. Okay, so we should be able to practice that like that, as sets of 1, 4, 5, so we know all the proximities. We should be able to go up and down each chord. E, root, E, first, E, second, E, root, E, second, E, first, E, root. From A, second, A, root, A, first, A, second, A, first, A, root, A, second. And from B, second, B, root, B, first, B, second, B, first, B, root, B, second, B. If we can do that, if we can go up and down all those things and we know them pretty well, then we're ready to start introducing more elements of music. And fortunately, these things kind of sound nice by themselves. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to start thinking about chords a little bit more melodically than harmonically. We're not going to do anything kind of crazy here. All we're going to do is pick our triad, pick a note from our triad, and probably move to another triad. As in, another triad of the same chord. So we might go 2 E chords, 2 E triads, 2 A triads, and 2 B triads each time we do it. We can use more, right? The plan here is to just kind of start experimenting with making sounds. Now we're going to follow a chord pattern of 1, 4, 1, 5, because that'll sound nice and musical, and it kind of has a natural sense of cadence and direction going on in it. And we can just start playing around with simply like doing E root. Now pick another string, change inversion, pick another string. Okay, now we're going to go to an A chord. Alright, now we can go up or down here. I'm going to go down. Back to E. Then B. Maybe another B. And then E. Alright, so really E, A, E, B. And I'm just trying to use chords as a way of, inversions as a way of creating a little bit of shape to what's going on. It's nice if I listen to it and I try to mirror that. So if I go bum, bum, then on the A chord I might go dum, bum, right? So we're trying to create little melodies with our chords. So here's a go. I'll show you what I mean, what it might look like if you do a bit of practice on it, right? Definitely messed up the chord changes there. Probably should have gone back to 1 instead of going straight to 5. But you get the idea, right? That sounds quite pretty. And it starts having echoes of some of the Western swing sounds that we hear. Obviously, there's very small steps to start with. Next up, after you've done some of that, or at the same time as doing some of that, one of the things we want to think about is some tensions. Quite often it's quite nice to use a 6 and a flat 7, occasionally a major 7. In these kind of styles, and especially for soloing. So let's look at 6 and flat 7. We're going to find 6 a tone up from 5, and we're going to find flat 7 tone and a half, so 3 frets up from 5 in both of these instances. Now, there is another way of finding 7, as we know. We talked about finding 7 a tone down from 1, which is possibly the easiest way. So we can always have that in our back pocket. Any ones we see, we could lower by tone. But for now, we're going to go from the 5 to the 6, and the 6 to the 7. So if we hear in our root inversion of E, 2, 1, 0, it goes root, 3rd, 5th, so the 5th is on the B string. Now I said a tone up, so B, a tone up is C sharp, and then D. So that goes root, root with a 6 on top, root with a flat 7 on top. Okay, now just that by itself. Already starts sounding very kind of bluesy, swing, music-y. Now we should do that in each position. So if that's root, right, when we come to first position, first is 3, 5, 1. Here's the 5 in the middle, upper tone, and upper semitone. Sounds the same, right? Right, then we go to second inversion. And again, find the 5. Second inversion is 5, 1, 3. The 5's in the bottom. Upper tone and upper semitone. Right, now that we have those notes, we can do interesting things where we establish some more voice leading. We can go E. Before changing the A, we add the 7. Alright, now in there on the A chord, 6, 7. And you see how that's creating a line that's pointing this way? That's really nice when we create those things, to join it to our next chord. And our next chord, conveniently, the E, the bottom note of first inversion, is that next fret. B, B7, up, gotta go up. E, flat 7, A. Special B chord. Okay, so once we've got all that together, we start creating some more interesting music. And then if we're willing to break it out a little bit more into individual notes, we could start even getting some of the Western swing soloing sound. So a lot of the time in Western swing, we're using arpeggios, right? Because this is blues based, we like to, we can chromatically approach notes. So actually, let's just take a quick sidestep on that. One way of making all these triads sound very Western swingy is to chromatically approach. So that sounds fancy, but it's not, it's just the fret before. We can do the fret above. The fret above is a lot tenser and will work sometimes, but won't work all the time. Generally what we hear is da ba da da stepping in, right? So something like this. A. E. So all I'm doing there is playing the chords of the cycle. Here's my E chord, and I step into it from E flat. Famously like that Jailhouse Rock sound. So any kind of chord we could chromatically walk into. Now, melodically, that also means that if we had an arpeggio, or a triad is an arpeggio is just a triad played in order, we could also chromatically approach every note there. So 1 fret behind everything we've got. Now, it's really important that we accent the notes of the chord. Now, if we add our 6 and 7, already that's sounding pretty cool. Right. Now, with combinations of those things, we can start creating lead lines. A. So let's just take my second inversion A shape. So the chromatic approach, back to E. B. A. E. Right? So you can see that, just going that line through our triads, we get a lot of really interesting and musical stuff happening. that ends up in a pretty complicated place. And so far we've only talked about triads, sixes, and flat sevens. And that's a huge quantity of the vocabulary of this kind of stuff. So I hope that helps. Let me know if there's any more questions, if there's anything else I can do to help out. Catch you around.